Hello, this is Steve Nawojczyk. Today I want to tell you about a case out of Crawford County, Arkansas that has sat unresolved in the public record for more than 50 years. It is the 1971 shooting deaths of Arkansas State Trooper Ed Blackard and his wife, Kathryn Blackard, in Van Buren, Arkansas. For decades, the official story was simple. The Arkansas State Police ruled it a murder-suicide. They said Kathryn shot Ed, then shot herself. That conclusion followed her name for the rest of her life and beyond. Recently, this case was revisited in the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette and in a book titled Reclaiming Kathryn by journalist Elizabeth Libby Newman, which takes a fresh look at the official version of events. So I did what a coroner does. I went back to the original Arkansas State Police CID files from 1971. Not to the headlines, not to memories, but to the paperwork the investigators themselves created. When you read that file slowly and carefully, a very different picture emerges. A key witness, Elizabeth Swearingen, who is the stepdaughter of Ed Blackard and the daughter of Kathryn, gave a sworn statement to the state police. She was inside that house earlier that day. She said Ed Blackard had been drinking heavily. He came home angry, loud, and abusive. He opened the doors and windows even though it was freezing outside. He started arguments over small things, and then she heard the sound of someone being struck. She said this was not new. When Ed drank, this kind of behavior happened. Elizabeth finally ran out of the house barefoot because she knew the violence would last all night. Kathryn was frightened and lying on the couch when she left. That is what the Arkansas State Police wrote down. When officers arrived later, both Ed and Kathryn had been shot. Ed was already dead. Kathryn was still alive, barely, and she was taken to the hospital by ambulance and died about an hour later. The gun was found on the floor between them. Kathryn's glasses were knocked off near the telephone, the very phone she used to call for help. One chair was overturned near the phone. There was no blood between the two bodies. Kathryn's blood was tracked from the kitchen out into the carport where she was taken away. Ed did not leave a blood trail. Those details matter. They tell us who was moving and who was not. Now look at the bullets. Ed was shot in the abdomen. The bullet went in and lodged in his spine. That kind of injury would have dropped him right where he stood. Kathryn was also shot in the abdomen. Her bullet went through her body and struck the wall behind her. The entry point in the wall was 44 inches from the floor, and Kathryn was about 57 inches tall. And that bullet traveled downward. That means the gun was higher than her body when she was hit. That is not what you see when someone shoots themselves in the stomach. Then there are the lab tests. The Arkansas State Medical Examiner tested both of them. Ed Blackard's blood alcohol level was 0.21%. That is extreme intoxication. At that level, judgment, balance, and emotional control are all badly impaired. Kathryn Blackard's alcohol test was negative. She was sober. The state police had those results before they closed the case. They also wrote in their own case progress report that Ed was under the influence of alcohol and was abusive that day. Even knowing Ed was drunk, even knowing there was a history of domestic violence, even with the bullet pass, the blood trails, and the phone call for help, the Arkansas State Police still ruled the case murder-suicide and placed the blame squarely on Kathryn. A year later, a state police captain admitted in writing that their own file did not even contain key medical and autopsy information needed to establish the sequence of deaths. In other words, the ruling was made without all of the forensic facts. When you put all of this together, the witness statement, the alcohol test, the scene, and the bullets, it does not look like a woman calmly killing her husband and then herself. It looks like a domestic violence confrontation involving a heavily intoxicated man and a frightened woman trying to get help. That is why this case is never settled, and that is why it is being re-examined today. This is Steve Nawojczyk, the 501 Coroner. Every death deserves the truth, even 50 years later. Y'all be kind to each other, okay?